Hello everyone! Today we will have a battle between working at home and working from the office as a part of DataFest 2020 career track. As you all may notice, there are a lot of people who switched to remote work recently due to COVID-19, and most of the people started to enjoy it. Maybe it's because they just switched, they don't know all the drawbacks. Maybe it's really the way to go and the future of the work. We will find out it today. We will discuss all the myths and all the drawbacks of working remotely. So as I tried to gather feedback about remote work, I understood that a lot of people complained about their kids. That is why I decided to not to talk about remote work only by myself, but to invite two beautiful speakers. So in the left corner today we have Tatiana. She's a PhD in physics. She's the mother of two beautiful children. Also she's a senior ML engineer and an artist. She worked remotely for more than 5 years, visited a lot of countries and so on. And in the right corner we have Mikhail. He is also a PhD in bioinformatics. He worked in the office more than 10 years. He's also a father of a grade 4-year-old and a global head of data science. And your humble servant. I have only 2 master's degree, don't even understand how they allowed me to moderate here. I have a lot of experience in remote work, visited a lot of countries, and I don't have kids, which is crucial here. So there are a lot of myths about remote work, and like the common ones that people became too lazy, they are not supervised, they don't work, and this is pretty much summarization of how it feels by our friends, our managers, and so on. So let's dive straight into it and discuss our first topic, which is family. As we all know, during COVID time, the number of divorces increased significantly. People just couldn't tolerate each other during 24 hours at home. We also looked at like famous video with a TV anchor who was trying to give an interview, and then the kids interrupted it, and we could all understand how it would be annoying to spend the entire day with small kids trying to work. So first I would like to ask Tanya, how do you cope with your family, with your husband, and with your kids?
Yeah, it's quite a challenge. I have 2 children. One is 5 years old and one is just 1. So I pretty much started a lot on maternity leave while changing my career. And then I got a job in a hospital full-time. But the childcare in Ireland has been closed since March due to the COVID. So actually, there is no problem with children at home. There is a problem with the absence of childcare for children. If you work from home, but you can have a nanny, or if you have a crash or school, it's not an issue at all. My husband has been working from home for 5 years. We had our son would go to crash, I would study, no problem. The problems began when they actually closed all the schools and crash facilities, and all the nannies were actually going to the doctors because the doctors need childcare more than ordinary people. Then all the parents started to be in trouble, and we actually managed to work with my husband in shifts. So he works 9 to 5. At 5, when he stops working, I go to work and I work till midnight. And unfortunately, often I don't have enough time during week to do my hours, so I work also on Saturdays and Sundays. So during the summertime, when they close the childcare, I will be with children full time, then I will work, and then I will work on weekends. So it's really like non-stop work in this regard, and it was quite challenging. Now they opened childcare, and oh, thanks God, and it's no problem at all. So if you can afford childcare at home as a nanny when you travel, or if you can have a crash nearby and work from home.
So I get it. Money solves every problem. So what about you, Mikhail? How did you enjoy spending the time at home with your son?
So it's actually daughter, right? So And it was quite challenging for us as well, obviously, because kindergarten in Germany also were closed at least for 3 months. And of course, it's not only about the time spent that somebody should look after our daughter, because again, it's the same situation, right? So we also could work in shifts. That was difficult, but it was manageable. But the problem was that our daughter really lacked the communication with her peers. And if she doesn't have enough time to play with her friends, then she becomes really angry, and then that is difficult for everybody. And also, at the peak of the pandemic, not only the kindergarten were closed, but also the playgrounds were closed. And then don't even have a chance to go out with our daughter, and we had to stay inside. That was really challenging. So I agree, when the kindergartens are open again, it's much easier to work from home, but still they don't cover the entire working hours. So in any case, somebody need to pick up the daughter earlier. So
Okay, and how did you get along with your wife?
Oh, pretty good. So she was really supporting. Again, she was working part-time, so it was a common effort, but managed. So we didn't divorce, if you ask on this.
That's nice to hear. I think you raised a very important question, which is a lack of interaction, which is also relevant for adults. But we'll talk about it later. So next idea is managers. So in some companies, especially in Russia, some bosses and managers believe that if they don't control what you do, if they don't see you every hour, every minute, then you're probably not working. So again, question for Tanya: how do you manage working without direct interference with your manager? How do you maintain your discipline?
So basically, you should be yourself your manager, I believe. And that kind of Russian approach that you need a manager behind the shoulder, actually, it's not that well populated in Europe. So here it's kind of believed that micromanagement is actually a bad thing. And there are a lot of evidence about that employees don't like to be micromanaged, and employees who have more freedom and responsibility and ownership of their project are actually working better. And I totally believe in that. So basically, as a machine learning engineer, I am in charge of this part of the project. I decide what technology to use, how to craft that project, how to communicate to stakeholders, and so on and so on. And because I'm in charge of all that, I actually don't need a manager. And if I need them, I just can, email some question or some issue. But in general, it's not quite common in Europe in general to micromanage and to control what the person is doing every single day. So same I'm doing when I'm supervising a junior. So now I mentor one fresh grad with PhD. Also, I refrain from asking him every day, like, what have you done, and so on. I just give him idea what needs to be done, and then I wait for him coming back to me and with questions, and if he needs my help and mentorship. So I don't believe that actually employees need management. I believe they need ownership for the project.
Yeah, I believe this is very reasonable and very mature. On my side, I'm working for a startup founded by Canadians, and they put a lot of trust in me, in my work as well, and promote entrepreneurial skills among all the engineers. So what about you, Mikhail? What kind of boss are you?
So I'm also not a big fan of micromanagement because it's not very good for the spirit in the team, but also not good for me. Otherwise, I would spend too much time just controlling what people in our team are doing. But at the same time, of course, when you're working from home, you don't have this connection with your team, and it's not so easy to see what's going on in their life. And that sometimes can be a problem because people don't tend to talk about problems very openly. Of course, it's culture dependent. So I have people in my team who are working from Spain. Of course, Spanish people are always glad to talk about their challenges, their problems, or their achievements. But I also have people in China, and this is a completely different story. And what really helped us, not only in my team but also in the entire organization during the COVID time, is really smart way of communication. So we have set up multiple meetings where we can discuss all the issues which appear on different levels. Of course, instead of bi-weekly one-on-ones, now we're having shorter but weekly one-on-ones. So every week I can speak to each team member and discuss any issues. And I think actually this communication part in team during COVID even improved, because people are staying at home and they need somebody to talk to, and then they talk to their manager.
Yeah, I totally agree that communication is the key. As I develop my hard skills, I understand more often that soft skills are even more important. Alright, moving next. So what about discipline? I know, so for me, working from home is like preparing for exams at the university. You tend to be lazy, you spend a lot of time on your home tasks, and your entire day is like working day and leisure day at the same time. So Tanya, do you have some tips on how to be more disciplined? Maybe you start your working day exactly at 9 a.m. every morning, or you put on your working clothes. So do you have some advice on that?
Yeah. So basically, according to discipline, it's actually not so much about the work from home thing. It's about the plenty of time thing. So, for instance, a long time ago, like in 2012, I was working in Aston University in the UK, and the university was open 24 hours. So you could go and do experiments in the middle of the night. So as I am like a night person, I would postpone all those experiments till evening, and then after dinner I can come at 9 and at 12 and work at 2. And it wasn't very productive, unsurprisingly, because then I would have crappy sleep. And in general, I know that I have plenty of time to do those experiments, so I would actually naturally kind of postpone it because there was so much flexibility in it. Then I had children, and the situation changed. I had to actually change my career and do all those studies only in those little bits of time when my child is sleeping, or in the evening when I have just few hours when everybody goes to sleep. So as soon as the child goes to sleep, I know I have 2 hours to work. Only those 2 hours, and that's it, no flexibility. Then you go and you work. So when everybody goes to sleep at 9, you go and you work those 3-4 hours, because you know that you have to be up early in the morning. So the children actually bring a lot of discipline in our lives. You cannot stay lazy in the bed till 10 as before, because they're gonna wake you up at 6 or 7. You cannot actually decide what time you will work when you have 2 little children and shift with your husband. You know that this time, okay, now it's your time, so you have to work now. And this is the best discipline, I think. When your time is very limited and you have to focus on this particular time, you have no choice to be disciplined, actually. But if you don't have kids who naturally discipline you, it's a nice idea to introduce habits during what hours exactly you work and repeat them every day, because that becomes your habit. And your brain is already kind of turning on during that time. It does not have to be 9 in the morning if you're not a morning person. It can be 12, but it should be consistent. And you should always remember that your lifetime is important. So all the times that you procrastinate, you actually waste it. So value your time, and when you dedicated that time to work on the project that you wanted.
Yeah, I really liked your advice, especially because my wife and I started to think about having children. It's like this old joke: if you think that your life is really hard, then buy a ship, and after you selling it, you will understand that your life was actually okay. I guess it's a bit harder with kids, but anyway. So, Mikhail, tell us about how is it in Germany? Did you tend to stay late at work?
In Germany, no way. You have to be back from work at 5. But first of all, I want to agree with Tanya that kids is a great way to improve your discipline and your time management skills, because you simply don't have enough time if you don't do it. And in general, about discipline, I don't think it's such a problem when we're speaking about data science professionals. For two reasons. First of all, if you're a data science professional, you're already disciplined enough to learn data science. It's not an easy thing to learn, and you definitely need some discipline for that. And second, of course, data science is an amazing field, and all around me is super motivated to work on data science projects. I don't think that some housework is actually better than working on a data science project. We don't have very strict hours when we working from home. We just try to maintain that everybody is available from 10 to 5. But of course there are some exceptions when you have a very early call with your colleagues in Asia or very late call with colleagues in the States.
Yeah, that is well noticed. I also believe that lack of discipline could be a sign of burnout or lack of motivation, and maybe a sign that you need to change your work because being a data scientist is really rewarding. That's what I think. Okay, moving next. As I earlier mentioned already, I started to notice that my entire day is devoted to work, and you just don't have a boundary between your work time and your time with family, your private time. So when you go to the office, it is naturally imposed by your time shifts. So, Tanya, do you think that it's okay while working remotely, or maybe kids also help in this with this problem? And how do you think about, like for example, working maybe for a startup and having a share? Is it okay to think about work all the time, even during weekends?
Yeah, so basically, of course, time separation is important, and it's important not to think about work all the time. However, this problem has nothing to do with work from home or work from office. Trust me, I know a lot of people who have been working from office all their lifetimes, and they still keep working in their head during night and in evenings and during weekends. And it is not about working from home thing, it's about mindfulness thing. So basically, when you are mindful, your brain is where you are. So if you play with kids, your brain is playing with kids. If you are doing surfing, your brain is also doing a surfing. So if you have lack of mindfulness, you're always thinking of work or of other projects while you are surfing or working with kids or doing something else. So I think that the idea to discipline mindfulness is actually crucial to avoid a burnout and other problems in life. So it's important to separate you from work, your brain from work, when you actually don't work on a project. But it is not about work from home. It's about paying attention to your children when you play with your children, or to surfing, or to whatever activity you are doing. And yes, kids help with that because they actually switch your mind. It's hard to think about something else. When you play with them, they're demanding, they need your attention, they need your care, and it really helps to learn that switching your brain from work. I think it's important, otherwise you will burn out.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned mindfulness. As for me, I started to meditate half a year ago, and I started to see improvement in ability to focus. But still, my mind tends to wander between work and leisure time. So, what about you, Mikhail? How do you cope with thinking about work after work hours?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this day and age, this is inevitable. I also try to practice mindfulness, but being a manager and also working in the data science field, all the projects are so interesting. I just simply cannot switch these thoughts off. And it was much easier when I was working from the office, because as soon as your job is done, you get into your car, you turn on the music, you turn on podcasts, and then you're completely disconnected from the work. Right now, I don't have this ritual, because I cannot spend half an hour just sitting at home and listening to music. So it's a bit more difficult, and also the borders of working day have kind of blurred. So it's not actually working from home, it's living at work in the end. Because I wouldn't start my working day at 7 when I'm doing it from the office. But here it's quite easy. Okay, I have some idea, I wake up, I open my laptop, I write some emails. It's already 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's also much easier to stay late in the evening, because I don't have to commute, and okay, I can have a meeting at 7 p.m. Because otherwise I would be at the car at this moment when I was working from the office.
If you see your coworker switching off his or her computer exactly at 6 p.m., do you feel offended, or do you feel some signs that he or she just doesn't care about the work?
Oh, definitely not. So I don't believe in long working hours, and I also believe that people can manage themselves if they think that they have done the work they have planned for this day at 6 p.m. There is absolutely no problem with that. Again, so even if you switch off the computer, your brain still keeps working, so it's not a big difference.
Okay, got it. So moving next, we all know how hard it could be to grow in terms of career, and we'll know that it involves a lot of direct communication, and that's what you can get from actually being in the office. So, Tanya, based on your experience, do you believe it is that important, or you can grow just as your skills grow, and the rest is not that important?
I think that direct communication is important for career, but for maybe some types of the career. For instance, handling crucial conversations much harder face-to-face than just writing an email. And there are a lot of situations in life when you need to have quite a crucial conversation or conflict resolution and so on. So basically, to train your soft skills as a high manager, it's important to have face-to-face interaction, because it can be different from online. But you can be managing startups even online all the time, like H2O, for example, and then maybe learning those soft skills of face-to-face interaction might not be that important. Or you can grow your career as an expert. When you thoroughly grow your expertise, of course you improve your soft skills, but in a bit different domain, and then this is not so crucial. So I'd say that yes, it can be important to have face-to-face interaction for career growth, but that depends on what career you actually want. And for expert type of career, maybe it's not that.
Yeah, I'm pleased that you mentioned H2O. It's a really nice company. So what about you, Mikhail? Could you imagine becoming a head of data science, working completely remotely and not going to the office?
Yeah, so I was lucky to start this position and have interviewed for this position just 1 month before all the pandemic. And I think that would be really difficult to do this kind of interviews remotely. Though we did a couple of interviews already for data scientists and senior data scientist position remotely, and they went very well. For further advancement in the career, I really think face-to-face communication is essential. Because it's very difficult to estimate the interpersonal skill without face-to-face communication. It's very difficult to demonstrate also your leadership skill then you don't communicate directly, because of course we all live like in this area of Zoom or Teams meeting, but you are not completely yourself when you're using Teams or when you're using Zoom, because there are a lot of non-verbal information which can be also demonstrated, how you move or how you your posture, so on and so forth, right? So it's all very important parameters which are completely invisible when you are using only online meetings. And I think this is the biggest issue with the career advancement when we're talking about remote work. You are not visible for the higher management. For them, you are just a moving image in the Teams chat. That's it, and that's very difficult. I know. So I know it's probably a prejudice. I know it might change if we continue to work more from home. But right now the situation is like this. People don't consider you too seriously if you don't communicate face to face with them.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this point. I think people who now enjoy working remotely should keep in mind these limitations of their career opportunities. Okay, moving next. This topic is actually very similar to what we discussed. So not only you could advance to your career while talking to people directly in the office, but you can also hear some rumors and some private information. I know people who started to smoke just to have smoke breaks with a limited number of people, because it is believed that all the most important behind the scene information is there during the smoke break. So Tanya, how do you feel about not gossiping during your work from home, or maybe you do gossip?
Yeah, so about smoking, it was actually Jennifer Aniston in France when she started smoking to catch up with her team as well in that famous movie. So there is a saying of Eleanor Roosevelt who said that great people discuss ideas, average people discuss events, small people discuss other people. So when I remember time in the office long time ago, it was actually more gossips and discussing other people. And I don't think it was actually bringing a lot of value in my life, so I don't miss it anyhow. So what about ideas and discussing ideas? They always find a way into my email. So if the person has some great idea, it will be sent by email. But if the person wants to discuss somebody else, and usually in a negative manner, that usually will not find a way to my email, and I'm quite happy about that. But again, I like growing my career more like an expert, so not trying to make any politics and stay away from all this politics altogether. So for me, it works great. But maybe for somebody who wants to grow more using politics and so on, maybe it can be useful.
Okay, thank you. So, Mikhail, how is it on the manager's side?
Yeah, it's not about politics. It's actually more about ideas, and this is the thing which I'm missing a lot from working from the home, with the lack of this informal communication over the cup of coffee, because you have a chance to meet somebody in the coffee place who you haven't talked for a while, and you might have just 10-minute informal chat, just discuss your projects, which you wouldn't do otherwise because you work in different divisions or in different functions. But you can discover, for example, very interesting projects which you weren't aware of. And then you can collaborate together and create actually value for the company. I don't think that again, people do a lot of rumors about other people. It's more like rumors about the projects. And it's in big corporations, it might look not as pretty as in the smaller teams. But of course, this is a very important way of communication, which is completely missing when you're working from home. There are some attempts to do so with projects like Random Coffee, but it's still not the same. So you still miss this accidental bumping into people and asking them about their work and discovering what's going on in the company. And you really it decreases your ability to envision what's going on and where you can participate and bring value.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think about it more broadly. For example, for me, the most benefit of living in a large city is direct access to some great specialists, some great people. You can invite a person to drink a cup of coffee, and within half an hour or hour, you can get so much information that you would not be able to get online, even with while chatting through Zoom or Telegram or whatever. So it is important. All right, so moving next to very much similar topic about human interaction. So we know that Zoom meetings are not as fun and as enjoyable as direct human communication. I worked remotely in different countries a lot, and better internet connection introduced this lag. You don't feel comfortable interrupting other people over communicating over Zoom. And like working remotely, I also often feel like separation from the team, some loneliness, which I cannot get because I'm working remotely. So how do you cope with all this stress, Tanya?
So yes, the problems exist. So we also travel a lot. My husband also works remotely. So when we travel somewhere, not always you have a good internet, and you often work from the hotel with a poor internet connection. Zoom meetings are not the same as the real meetings, although we are trying to make them more informal as well within the team. We made our special chat, like we have Slack ODS, and we have a special chat for work where you can actually also talk informally. So kind of a team building, remote team building. It helps, but it is not total substitution of that. So considering loneliness and separation, it's easier for me because I have a family. So when you have two children and husband, you have a lot of people in the house all the time, so you don't feel lonely and separated in a way. But yes, the connection within your team is not that great as maybe if we worked together. So we are not making such friends. However, I don't feel lonely and separated as long as I have friends nearby or where I live and with the family. So this gap is actually filled by just not by work but by my personal life. So yes, there is a problem with that, but it is possible to adjust yourself and to create the informal chats and informal team buildings online. So that's what we are doing because it's also good for the project.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. As we talk, I started to understand that kids solve a lot of problems, but, but probably they create even more. I just you just don't mention it. So, Mikhail, you've talked a lot about online meetings as well already, and do you believe that modern technologies like conference rooms in the office with high internet speed and high quality images can somehow eliminate this issue?
Not at all. Of course, that helps a lot if you have good connection, but it's not very easy to have this team spirit if you don't see each other. And we are also trying to build more informal connections within the team. So, for example, we don't start our team meetings from some work stuff. We start with a discussion: how was your week? Did you travel somewhere? Or like, what was the highlight of your week outside of your work? And that really helps a lot because then people start discussing like, okay, for the weekend we traveled there and there, and then people start to ask, what should you recommend to visit? And it's really helping because even during the work meeting, discuss non-work stuff, really great for team building. And indeed, the also in my team, I have a couple of complaints about loneliness and separation. So one of my team members actually moved into his girlfriend because he was alone at home, and this also improved his life quality in the end. And as for the internet connection, I really feel it's getting much better, and all this work from home movement in 2020 also will improve this. So I know in many places in Germany they're building new lines for the internet. So in a couple of years, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, from what we just discussed, I think there is still room for more startups like Special Chat, Discord, and so on, because the problem is still there. Maybe some, I don't know, 3D holograms will help. All right, moving to my favorite topic, working without pants and other stuff. So, this is just a funny picture. The theme of the slide is a bit different. So I heard a lot of complaints that people at their offices are not provided with a proper, I don't know, monitors, tables, chairs, comfortable enough, because like HR department or any other, they just don't have a budget for that. And then they switch to working from home. They suddenly were able to allow themselves to enjoy comfortable chairs, and they just paid for all of this themselves. And I did the same. I ordered a table from IKEA, ordered a new monitor. I have 3 now, and this does improve the quality of your working environment. So, Tanya, would you like to share how's your working place organized?
Yeah, I can actually show, maybe. Should I? So I have a nice big desk with 2 monitors and a printer, and I have nice shelves from IKEA, and of course a whiteboard. And so the desk is about like almost 2 by 2 meters, so it's huge. And I have a nice big chair, and this is like, because my husband works from home for more than 5 years, so we got it as soon as we got a house. And I also have my other office space for my studio, where I have a nice big desk from IKEA that can be put up and down. So when I work as an artist, I put it up, because you usually paint while standing. And when I work as a data scientist, I put it down and sit. So I'm very comfortable office, and I've been inside some big corporations, and even managers don't have office space of the quality that I have. However, it was not that expensive, so the shelves were from IKEA. It's maybe like 80 a piece. The desk was like 200. The chair also a couple of hundreds. Monitors. So yes, you need to invest in this, but because it's not a temporary solution for us. My husband has been working in this office for 5 years, and now I work because we are doing shifts also in this office. And in my own office, I also spend a lot of time. It is worth to invest a couple of thousand to make a working environment great if this is like a permanent solution, because it does make a difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I can understand why it could be expensive for the employer, because at scale, like for 1,000 employees, even like chair for $10 more becomes really expensive, and if you buy it by yourself, it's still cheap for you. So, Mikhail, what about you? Did you experience some limitations at your working place at the office?
No, so of course the office space is much better than my home office because in Germany you have to provide a good office space for your workers by law, and you have to spend a certain amount of money on that. So I had a much better desk than I do now, much better chair. And I also thinking of upgrading all of this in IKEA. I didn't have to buy the new monitor because I just took one from work. But I would say that it's kind of a burden that you have to maintain the separate working room in your home as well, right? So we live in an apartment, we don't live in a home, so we cannot just afford to dedicate the entire room as a working room. So right now I'm working from the guest room. We don't have that much guests because of Corona, so it's kind of balanced. But still, I can see that for many people it can be a challenge. So not everybody has big apartments. So if you live in a three-room apartment with two kids, you simply don't have enough space to put your desk and your laptop and everything, right? And as for the quality of the environment, I think indeed you can just go to IKEA and you can buy whatever you need for your efficient work, and it wouldn't be too expensive. I think 1,000 euros should be enough for your desk and for your chair.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So the desk and the chair could be cheap, but the extra room in your apartment, not everybody could afford that. Also, so it's similar in Russia. Not that many people have large apartments, and if you start to think like you need your room for work, your wife needs, you need a room for maybe one children, two children. That's too many rooms to handle and to rent. All right. So let's talk about open space. So I hated open spaces my entire life. I didn't like that they're too noisy, and now it is all changed because of noise canceling headphones. I even wearing one right now, and it helps even at home. But there is other side of this constant disruption, which there are research that it really disrupts your workflow. And as a software engineer or data science, if you communicated with somebody, interacted or answered an email, then you need to spend 10 or maybe 20 minutes to get back to work. And just try imagine having several interactions during the day, and your day work is gone. But there is a positive side as well. For example, in this collaboration between people, it's much easier to get help and to get the information you need by disrupting other people. So, Tanya, what's your attitude towards open space issue?
I always have been hating open spaces, period. As well, when I did PhD, it was huge tables, much better than on this image. And still, yes, all these constant disruptions. Also, some people will not actually respect this is the office space, so they will bring some smelly food and eat just next to you, so you have all those smells. Or they can call their mom on Skype loudly, and things like that also happen in open space quite a lot. Well, so yes, I'm not a big fan of open space, especially as now I have quite a large house, so everybody has a working office, plus we have extra 4 rooms besides offices, so it's quite big house. And I can enjoy really my working space, which is well organized and big, and nobody interrupts me. Yes, children can be loud, but I can put Mozart, and I usually lock the door when I work. So I put Mozart, so I don't hear any other sounds, and it helps a lot to concentrate. Yes, there is a lack of informal communication, but I prefer that informal communication somehow arranged in advance, so you know that you go for coffee somewhere. We meet, I work in a hospital which is like 30 miles away, not that far. So we meet from time to time for a coffee in a cafe. We don't go to hospital because they actually treat COVID-19 there, and there was no permission, even though I can hypothetically go to the office because it is a hospital and there is a pandemic. We did not have a permission to actually go and work from the office altogether. So, but we met for a coffee in a cafe with the team, and that was very useful. So in this regard, it's nice to have informal conversations, but I'm not a big fan of being disrupted all the time and so on. So yes, open space sucks. I agree.
I like that how you could handle things with a locker, and how you could also handle this informal communication, have some schedule for this. So, Mikhail, what about your company? Do managers have separate rooms for them, or you all work in the open space like Facebook?
No, we all do work in the open space. So even the higher managers. I mean, it used to be like this until Corona. I don't know. Maybe it will change. Um, But I am one of these rare people who actually enjoyed working from open office because first of all because of the opportunity to have this informal communication, and also the opportunity to not to work alone, because when you work alone you feel a bit strange. I mean, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should just, I don't know, do something else and not actually working. And if you work all together, it seems like a team effort. And it was really great to have our data science corner in the big open space. So we were sitting together, all the data scientists from different areas, and it was really great to have sometimes brainstorming to discuss with people who are experts in deep learning, some deep learning ideas, stay closer to the whiteboard, draw some diagrams. It was really a great time and really great experience. And of course, if your office looks like on this picture, it's not so nice because it's not enough space because people sitting too close together. But we had slightly different configuration. I think we were at least 2 meters apart, maybe 2.5 meters, and with noise cancelling headphones and with the right furniture, which also absorbs some of the noise that wasn't that time.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's really a trade-off. There is no solution. So on the one hand, you have a teammate shoulder, collaboration, team spirit, and so on. And on the other hand, you have some analytical work. You don't want to be disturbed. So yeah. Let's talk about commute. I personally hate commuting because I live in this part of the Moscow where all the traffic jams are. I didn't enjoy commuting by subway because it was overcrowded. But I know some people who enjoy this time because they know they can dedicate themselves, they can read, they can listen to podcasts. They know that this is even surrounded by thousands and thousands of people. They feel like it's their private space. So, Tanya, do you have some substitutions for commuting, or maybe a desire to commute, or you hate it all along?
So it depends where you live. The commute quality depends where you live. So of course, if you can cycle along the bay, listening audiobook, like in Ireland, this can be nice. So many people could cycle at work, and it's quite a pleasant ride. Well, maybe in Moscow this is not that feasible. So, but I still believe that I prefer to cycle after work in my time than to cycle to work. Then you go to shower, you have to change, and so on. So basically, there is a difference when you listen to audiobooks or during travel or during cycle at your own will, or when you have to commute every day. And for me, it is actually quite a waste of the time. So one of the reasons why we both work remotely is that my husband works for Dublin. It's about 3 hours drive. From time to time, like once a month, he used to go like for team building and to meet his team. But obviously, you cannot drive 3 hours every day back and forward. So, and he listens audiobooks during that time, so he enjoyed that ride, but if it's quite occasional. Commuting every day is really a lot of time waste, and yes, if you can avoid it, it's great, especially in a big city. As for me, it will take me about 40 minutes drive to the hospital. Nice drive, empty roads, audio book or music, but still this is 40 minutes, and then it's 40 minutes back, and then as well you need to find a place at the parking lot. So you are easily losing 2 hours a day every day, and if you multiply it, like it's like 10 hours a week and so on, so you can see how much time you actually dedicate to commute if you work from office. And this is one of the reasons why I chose to work from home, because especially in large cities, it takes too much part of your life. And even if you can feel it with audiobooks and so on, it's not the same as if you decide to cycle on your own and listen to audiobook.
Yeah, I'm totally on your side here. There are people in Moscow who travel 2 hours one way, and this is just crazy. So, Mikhail, tell us about your commute and how did you feel when it became like walking from your bedroom to guest room?
Yeah, so of course the quality of life improved, right? I'm also not a big fan of commute, and of course you can spend this hour a day in any other way, right? So it gives you freedom. But I still miss some aspects of the commute. So like it's not the first time when I switched from subway to the personal car. I started to reading far less, and now when I don't have to commute at all, I start to listen to podcasts far less. And there are a lot of interesting podcasts which I want to listen, right, especially in the area of data science. And there is also was one very important role which I already mentioned for the commute in my life. It was this bridge between personal life and work life, because you can spend this half an hour in a car, going to work, thinking about what kind of projects you need to do today, planning your day, thinking about more global stuff. And when you're going back home, it's the same thing, right? So you can disconnect from work, you can switch your mind to think about other things, you can switch, like, I don't know, what to cook today, or like where to go on the weekend with your children. And this time also was only my time, right? So because at home you have family, at work you have colleagues, at in the car this half an hour you're completely alone, and also you can think about what you want. And finally, as I live in Germany, we have great roads and we have autobahns without speed limits. It's also kind of satisfying to go to work with 200 kilometers per hour. That's something that as well.
Yeah, please stop. We're already jealous about the quality of life in Germany. Yeah, I like this idea that the commute time is a buffer zone between your private life and your work life, which when you work from home, you're missing. And also that you mentioned that now you have less time to read, less time to read podcasts, because like it's an assumption that, okay, I'll have 1 or 2 extra hours per day and I will devote it to reading. But it was it's again about discipline. So you knew you had this time and you cannot get away without commuting to your work, and then you actively decided to spend it on reading or listening podcasts. And now you have your free time, and you sometimes feel it with your work, sometimes you feel it with other things, and yeah, I can totally relate to that. So last but not the least, let's talk about job opportunities. So now during COVID time, remote work allows you to choose between all the employers around the world, and also companies who were strict on remote work, they now can enjoy benefits of employing people from all over the world. But there is a downside, I believe, that now the competition is more strict. We know that people from IT sphere, for example, in Russia, you have like a couple of employers like Yandex and others, and now you suddenly can work everywhere. So, Tanya, what do you think? Like this freedom of job opportunities, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Personally, for me, it's a great thing, and this is the only plus the pandemic had brought into my life, because I live in a little village in Ireland. I live near nice beaches. I can surf like 15 minutes to good waves in the northern hemisphere. I like surfing. Beautiful nature, beautiful cliffs, and obviously no jobs. So I was quite fortunate to actually get this job in a hospital, because they actually found me. But in general, I started to look around, and before the pandemic, it was quite a limited number of remote work opportunities. Everybody wanted you to move. And my family just wasn't ready to move to London or Berlin or those big hubs where there are a lot of vacancies. And now, as the pandemic has progressed, I see more and more remote vacancies. In fact, all the vacancies are now remote, and you can start remote. Some of them want you to come back to office after the pandemic, but some started to say, "Oh, maybe you just come like once a month." So I had like a talk to London startup, and it will be okay for them if I just fly like once a month or something like that. And there are more and more companies like that. So for me, having the global job opportunities is vital because I'm living in such a small place that otherwise is practically hard to grow your career. And I'm glad that companies are doing those remote works more and more. And indeed, the world is changing towards this direction. And hopefully, there will be more and more options like that in big companies as well. So this is great to me. Regarding the competition, I think that it shouldn't be considered as a minus, but better as a plus, because if you have a bigger competition, this also forces you to be a better specialist. So you can look at the competition as a challenge, because if there is no competition, you are not that motivated to grow your skills even more. So, but if the competition like a worldwide, you just have to be the best, but it is kind of possible. So I think this is a great thing.
Yeah,
It's
I
not a
totally
bad thing.
agree with you. So we can hope that the world and the labor force and all the companies will be more efficient due to competition. So, Mikhail, back to you. So, did your company started to enjoy the opportunities of hiring people all over the world? And maybe did you start to think about finding a new job?
Not yet. I just started this one. And that's also the answer for the first question. Not yet. We are still tied to our offices officially, right? Or legally. I guess this is also the German thing, that you need to have some official working place. And it's also not applicable for all the jobs. So in our world, in the data science world, in the big organization, data scientists not only people who write the code, but also people who talk a lot to stakeholders, to clarify the requirements, to shape the project, and to build it together with the stakeholders. So you still need to travel to the place where stakeholders sit, right? Which are also located globally. So it's still not a possibility of 100% remote work. At the same time, in general, I think it's, of course, absolutely great that the workforce now really becomes global, especially in the IT sector, and it's really great opportunity to find talents all over the world. And the only thing which is a bit concerning here for me, I think that there would be this further separation between people who talk to stakeholders and people who actually write code. And there is a risk that more and more jobs of the second type would be outsourced to the countries with much less, so with more people and less salary. Like, so we're talking about India, we're talking about Eastern Europe here, and that create again this disconnection between different parts of the work.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. So to end on a bright note, I would really like to thank our speakers today, Tanya and Mikhail. I really enjoyed our conversation. It wasn't much of a debate, but rather a conversation. I've learned a lot about working in the office, some pros and cons. And I guess we now in the world which changed dramatically, and we'll never get back to what we get used to. And we will, I think we will have this debate, this ongoing debate forever about remote work and office work. And maybe at some point people will switch to some hybrid model and to enjoy benefits of going to the office and directly interacting with their peers, managers, and so on, and building their careers, and also enjoying their time at home with their family and doing their hobbies, being flexible, and so on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and bye-bye.